that should place us online on the internet for anybody that's interesting. For posterity, this is the San Carlos Computer Club. I am Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions, and we're all broadcasting from remote locations. And Cheryl and Bill might think that's not true, but they are living in a different town this season. So they're in a remote location as well. Even though they're in Tequilas and none of us are, they're in Tequilas. But they're not in San Carlos. They're here for a short visit. And I'm sorry I missed you guys. How was the concert? How was CCR?
It was a lot of fun. We saw Alex do his first CCR tribute in about 2012, and we've made every one of them since. So sometimes it's 20, 25 people in the room, but last night it was a pretty full house at Colibri. So it was really nice to see him. We're catching up with a few other people today, but we've been talking about the gas price because we filled up in Alamos before we came to expensive San Carlos, but then we're seeing that you went to Arizona. What's the gas price there?
Well, yeah, it's crazy. Right across let me say, right within Nogales has always had a different gas price than what you see across the Mexican nation. Gas prices in Mexico for years were controlled by the government because it was a government-controlled industry. And I want to say it was during Peña Nieto presidency that they sold off the national gas and opened it up to foreign investment, which is very controversial still, because they really made it okay for foreigners to come in and sell Mexican gas, thinking they were going to create a competition, or maybe that's not the right way to say it. Convincing the Mexican people they would have lower prices through that kind of competition, even though the source of oil is pretty much the same. And that is not what happened. But prices did not go down. They always went up. And they are extremely high in San Carlos. I don't know what they are in Alamos right now. But in San Carlos, they're about $24.99 a liter. Seems that if you go into Guaymas, you'll find some stations that are selling it for $24.69. It seems to be around that price, $24.69, $24.99. At the border, I saw 20 pesos a liter. And as I crossed into the United States, I saw U.S. $4.49 a liter. But then just a half-hour drive away, I saw $14.99. And that seems to be the price that we're seeing here in Phoenix. Before I leave, I'll go to Costco and fill up, and I'll see what that price is. That's always, traditionally in the United States, that is the cheapest gas. And so I will go to Costco and get gas before I leave and have an idea there.
Okay, that leads me to an app recommendation.
Oh, great.
Early.
Sure.
So we use Gas Buddy. Gas Buddy gives us the price at all the gas stations. It works in the United States. It doesn't work as well here in Mexico, but it works great in USA and Canada. People post the price, and you're right. Costco is always our go-to place.
You know, I forget about Gas Buddy. I need to check my website. I used to link to Gas Buddy with a search to find Arizona gas so that I could compare it to Mexican gas prices, and I haven't looked at that in years. Of course they have an app. I didn't even think about it.
They also, I keep in my travel menu, it's a website that converts gas prices to different currencies per liter. So, for example, I punch in Mexico price per peso, and it tells me the Canadian dollar.
Yeah. Canadian dollars to the gallon.
Yeah. So
Canadian liter.
Oh,
Canadians.
I'm sorry.
Liter. Yeah, it'll give us the price per liter, and the exchange rate by that date.
Oh, that's cool. You don't happen to have the name of that website, do you? We should probably share that amongst us. That sounds like a great resource. Hello, Chester. Welcome.
Good morning.
I am in remote location as well. I'm in Phoenix. Bill and Cheryl are the only ones in Tequila's this morning. Well, I have driven my daughter up here. She's going on vacation to visit her girlfriend in New York, and so I'm sitting in Phoenix. I'm actually in Scottsdale right now. Well, this is the San Carlos Computer Club, and as of such, I always try and send out a document of possible topics, and today is no different. I put it together yesterday morning because I knew that I was going to be at the airport this morning at 1 in the morning, and we were going to go visit my folks yesterday afternoon, and so I wanted to make sure it got out early so I didn't have to worry about it. I'm going to put a link. Oh, gasprice.com, is that it? I'm going to put a link in our chat in case you don't have the document up. And Cheryl, this doesn't look like a link. This says convert-gas-price.com.
That's because they changed it. It's all together. Convertgasprice.com is the name of the
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
So
You can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to.
So
This sounds like
HTTPS.
a nice link to just have in your back pocket.
Yeah, convertgasprice.com.
Nice of them not to turn it into a link, even though I fully qualified it. Well, I didn't actually. I didn't give it an HTTP. Let me try that again. HTTPS. You know, you get lulled into complacency where this stuff just is figured out, and you don't have to. You don't have to do that kind of stuff. You don't have to do the geeky stuff. There we go. I accidentally did it twice. That's how great I did it twice. Oh, this is awesome. Look at that. They don't screw around. Type of price. See it in Canadian. You're in the United States. Mexico's on here. Cool. Gallons and liters. That's awesome. If I switch to Canada up here, will it switch to liters to liters? I'm assuming. Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely what you need. Boy, that's a shortcut to put on your phone.
So it's, what did you say it was, $4.99 in Phoenix?
No, at the border it was $4.99 US. So yeah, let's go back and try that. US. I think what I've seen most common is $4.19. But I was surprised that right at the border it was. But that's the thing, is they are converting, they are competing with both sides of that border. The price on the US side is competing with the price on the Mexican side because their market is the same. If the Mexican side is lower than the Mexican side, people will go across the border to get gas. They live in Nogales, and vice versa. They live in Nogales. They go across the border and get gas. Okay, is there a button here I'm not hitting? Must be, oh, it says click here.
By the way, the price in Phoenix is typically very high.
Windows security and
because so much of it comes from California.
Hey, your website
privacy alert.
jammed up my
Important
web browser. You guys still there?
I'm here again.
There we go. Don't click the click here button.
Yeah, there seems to be advertisements in it.
Select country, type the price. If you're buying gas with your credit card, They're trying to sell us. Is this it? Yeah. No, that's an ad too. Cheryl, all this looks good, but I don't see how to activate it. I don't see a button on it. Let me full screen it.
Huh.
Type in the price you see at the gas station to see the convenience. Yeah, it's supposed to do it. It's just supposed to do it in real time.
Yeah, it's worked for me before. I don't know why it's not working today.
Huh.
I've had trouble with this one before.
Have you?
Yeah,
It was working for me.
something screwed up on it.
Yeah, and I don't remember all these ads and stuff being in it. So.
Well, maybe it isn't the right site. Maybe it's one that is like a word difference or a letter difference in the web address. Because that ad, when I clicked on it, felt like it was trying to infect my web browser.
Not good.
That might need just a hair more research to determine if we're actually looking at the right thing, but the concept is exactly what somebody would need.
Huh.
And now here I've inadvertently closed our document, so I'm going to open that.
Yeah, that thing, it's worked for me every other time, and it's a saved website. Huh.
Okay, so you are verifying that it is the correct address.
Yeah, it's the one I've been using. I didn't use yours.
Okay.
And it does the same thing. It doesn't give you a keyword to put price in.
Well, mine does. If I highlight the price, it's there. I can type.
No.
But then I go, I've got United States, Mexico, and it doesn't give me anything. Last updated 12.
Even more, the simplicity of its design might lend itself to have been hacked. I mean, they may not be intentionally compromising people, but they themselves may have been compromised. Behavior we just experienced.
So I typed in swap countries and I put 23.99 per liter in Mexico. It came back with US dollars, infinity. I would say something is happening with this website.
I wonder if even their APIs, because there are application programming interfaces that I'm assuming they're using to track this information in real time. I've written stuff like that, and they can pull from a currency converter and pull from the economic markets for gas prices, and maybe something is broken that in. I mean, besides our economic society and oil-based system of revenue, something to do with it. Well,
yeah.
Anyway, I have come with topics. If you guys have topics, let's talk about them right now. But I did fill up this document with stuff that I thought would be interesting for folks. Well, I get started on things that I think you'll find interesting. Do you guys have anything that you want to share, and any problems, any fixes that need to happen? No issues with internet or computers. One of the things that we talked about last week, not computer related, but computer adjacent, because I'm Yuya's husband. We talked about the having to stop at 21 for here comes Jim. Good morning, Jim. We're just getting started. I'm sitting in Phoenix right now. Cheryl and Bill are down in San Carlos at Tequila's. And of course, Chester and Fred are as remote as you and I are. So what I was just about to talk about is that I drove up to bring Emily to the airplane because she's taking a trip to New York to visit her girlfriend. And we decided to stop at 21, as the news has been telling us. Those that have permanent and temporary residence cards are now supposed to start checking in as we leave the country and as we come in. This is very much enforced at the airlines. I've had to deal with that before. I don't know if you guys have, but I actually, the last time I flew out of here was to pick my folks up for Thanksgiving, and they had somebody wandering around the Mexican terminal at the gate, checking names to make sure that folks would go to immigration and show them their credentials. This is doing it at 21, and I have to say, nothing is set up for you to do this, except they do have a procedure. What I mean by they don't have anything set up for it is they've built a huge barrier between the outgoing to the United States traffic flow and the incoming to Mexico traffic flow. So you have to drive past that barrier, and then you have to make a U-turn to come back in to where immigration is, where you would get your visa as you're crossing the land border, and park in the same parking lot and go to the same facility. When we went in, Emily doesn't have to do this. She's a Mexican and she's dual citizenship, so she doesn't have to deal with this. I start asking them about it. I had one guy in there, a kid as far as I'm concerned these days. He looks at my equivalent of a green card in Mexico, my permanente, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I've been told that you guys have a system now. You're supposed to be checking us out as we leave the country and checking us in as we come in." And he's like, "Really? Okay. Well," and he looks at my card and goes, "But this is expired." And I'm like, "No, it's not expired. It's brand new from last year." It's like, "But the date." I'm like, "That's the date of issue. I'm a permanent resident, and that means it doesn't expire. This is just telling you when I got it. And it's new, even though I've been here 30 years, because the bank doesn't like credentials to be more than 10 years old." He's like, "Really? Okay, hold on." And he gets on a cell phone and he starts calling, and he sticks it in the machine while it's ringing, and it does something. I don't know. I can't see the screen, but he gives it a weird face, and he stays on the phone. And he's talking to somebody on the phone, and it's going back and forth. And I'm not really understanding. He's being given some information. And then he goes, no, this is, and he's trying to leave, and he's trying to, I'm trying to translate this in my head as he's talking, but he's basically telling the other guy, he's trying to leave. And he said that he's been told he's got to check in with us on the way out and the way in. And whatever advice he got from the other guy, said, "Oh, I need your passport." So I had to give him my passport. He took the passport. He's still on the phone. Took the passport, stuck it in the machine to verify my passport, scanned the passport. And when he got off the phone, he's like, "Okay," and stamped the passport. Like I'm a permanent resident, but he's stamping my U.S. passport as I'm leaving the country on the U.S. passport, and he had me fill out a document that I had to fill out at the airport. Again, if you've flown, you've filled this document out before. And then he put that in my passport, and then he scanned my permanente. And all that information went in the computer. Oh, I forgot to mention, while he was on the phone, I heard him say, "And do we charge them the same?" There was a charge on the back wall. I think it was like 82 pesos or 92 pesos for that we charge the people coming in. And I didn't hear the answer, of course, because the answer was on the other side, but he didn't charge me a thing, which I would have argued about, because I could have just driven through. Like, what are you charging me for? I'm just leaving my country, coming back to it. And that's what the majority of the time was spent having him figure out how he was supposed to deal with us. It is absolutely legitimate. You are supposed to check in. as you're leaving and as you're coming back through the land border. However, he told me, you are the first person I have had to deal with. I didn't even know the procedure, didn't even know we did this. Then, and again, I say nothing's set up for this except their computer system's set up for it now. They don't know how to do it. He just learned how to do it. And that wall, that damn barrier between coming and going, you have to leave 21, head towards San Carlos, get to the end of that barrier, and do a U-turn to come back into the United States.
That's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
We've been doing that for the last, I don't know how many years since they put that barrier. Yeah, we turned in our tip there.
Because you just said we had to.
Well, and you guys come in on a tourist visa, right?
Yeah.
And you have to do that on a tourist visa. You have to. What's weird is that we've never had to do that. Well, since we went to the electronic residence cards, the plastic cards, that the equivalent of a green card in Mexico, we've been told not to do it because they didn't have a system. And last week, we were talking about the news, the English news. I think even from, what is the name of that? We've got it as a recommendation. And the Expat Insider, yeah. There was an article in there talking about how we were going to have to start doing this as residents. And this is absolutely the procedure, the same thing you guys are having to deal with your returning in your visa. It's tough to recommend somebody do that. I mean, I know the visa becomes a much more difficult thing because if you don't turn it in, they can look at their computer and say, hey, you didn't turn in the last one. With the permanentes or the temporary resident cards, they actually just don't have any way of knowing that you left unless you come in and say you came back and you didn't tell them you left. Well, that was my experience. I thought you guys would appreciate. Just a follow-up from last week.
I have news about one of our members.
Go ahead. I mean, unless it's inappropriate for this forum.
No, I think it'll be fine. Judy is recovering from her stroke in Colorado. She is determined to get back to San Carlos. So her house has not been sold. It is there for her. And she's doing all of her rehab and she's hoping to be back here one day.
Oh, awesome. That's great to hear. I mean, does that mean that I mean, she's able to talk?
Her speech was, according to my pedicurist, who is her pedicurist. Now, this is really good gossip, guys. Beauty parlor stuff, you know. Anyways, she she has talked to Judy. She doesn't talk long on conversations, but her one side has been affected physically, but not her speech.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, I'm happy to hear that she's recovering and that there's a good chance we're going to see her again in the future. Let's see. I did bring. Last week we talked about lockdown mode on the iPhones. And I have just spent the last week in lockdown mode. And I got to say, if that mode is going to protect us from threats like we were talking about last week, we should all have it turned on. It is just, it's so non-intrusive. There are times when it announces itself. You go into an app and it'll say you're under lockdown mode. But it's more like a hypnotic suggestion to calm your nerves when things don't quite look right. It's like a message going, hey, if this isn't quite looking right, if something seems a little janky, remember, you're in lockdown mode. I really did not find much of my activities hindered by using lockdown mode. I did have a couple of experiences where I had to cut and paste a web address from a messenger I was using, but it happened so infrequently. I'm really not certain. I think it was WhatsApp, but I'm not certain exactly which messenger it was. There was plenty of links I could just open that somebody would send me, and I could click on them. And this is really what we're talking about is how easy it is for things like pictures to open and links to open, how frustrating you might find that, the user experience. But they seem to have done a really good job of kind of shielding all these different ways that you could inadvertently get compromised. Like you go to a web page like the one we were talking about last week, and all of a sudden it's taking over your device. The this lockdown mode actually is so unintrusive that it's difficult for me to believe that it actually would have stopped this. I mean, this is what's, again, I'm not a security expert. I have, almost over 40 years of experience working with computers, but I'm not a security expert. But I read security experts, and they say this would have prevented those infections if people had been in this mode. Fred, you've got your hand up. What can I tell you? What do you got? What question?
Well, the site that Cheryl just gave us, did you go out to it on your iPhone and see if it got interrupted or?
Oh, that's a good question, because it really did feel compromised, didn't it? I should give it a shot and see what happens. So lockdown will appear at times. Like I've just gone into Safari, and it says at the bottom you're in lockdown mode. It says lockdown mode enabled. But I'm looking at a Google page without any problems. I've been using that browser to check on my kid's flight in the Delta website. I did also come across a couple of websites where I could read everything. Everything was very clear, but then they had some certain icons that were used for navigation where the browser decided not to show me the picture. They just used an outline of the picture, which absolutely doesn't hinder anything I'm doing. The other thing that I think might be interesting about lockdown mode, and if you decide to use it, you'll have to report back to me. I get the impression there's a good chance you might save battery life, because what lockdown mode is doing, besides blocking these things, it's also stopping background processes from being able to shoot off very easily. It pauses things and keeps them from running without your attention. So even if something were to flip off into the background, it can't progress unless you're part of that part of that calculation. I do believe I experienced that. One of my habits is to move back and forth. I don't know if you can see my screen, but you have a number of apps running at the same time. And so I will move back and forth between some data. Say there's something on one app that I want to type into the other app, and I'll move back to read it without actually entering the app. And what I found was when I entered the app, and it's app dependent, but a couple of apps, if I entered the app, I would find myself at the beginning of that app. I'm sure you can imagine the kind of scenario I'm talking about, where you've entered an app and you've clicked a button, filled something out, you followed it, now you're on like the third page of that app. That's the information you want. I switch over to another app where I'm gonna literally type that information in. I've forgotten what I'm going to type. I switched back to the app, and that back has returned me back to the very principal page. It is a nuisance. It's not a hindrance, but it is a nuisance. You'd have to decide yourself that kind of convenience versus security. But for me, that's not much of a loss of convenience, given the kind of threat that they were reporting last week. I don't think lockdown mode is no longer for just journalists, just politicians. I think given the threat that was uncovered and described last week, I think we all should be in lockdown mode. This is my opinion. We should all be in lockdown mode. Just get used to it being slightly nuanced, slightly more inconvenient, but much more secure. I also believe, after having used it for a week, and I'll keep reporting on my experience, I'm not turning it off. I'm going to keep it going. I also believe that this style of accessing your phone will end up being popular enough that it'll be ingrained in the future operating systems, and we won't have a lockdown mode again. We will just have the way iOS works, and lockdown will come as a concept. I'm sure it's a concept now, but right now it's a concept to battle a specific kind of compromise and threat to your device. And it just seems like it works too well not for it to be the default all the time. I'm not familiar with a lockdown mode for Android. If anybody out there is, let me know, and I'll research that as well. This is all iOS we're talking about. Also, when I turned it on my phone, it suggested for me to turn it on, not on my phone. When I went over to my Macintosh was sitting there going, "Hey, do you want to turn lockdown mode on your Macintosh on yet?" No, maybe not yet. Maybe I'll play with the phone for a bit before I commit my Macintosh to it. I've just got too many things I rely on for me to be that comfortable with it. But I'll do that experiment as well at some point. Maybe I'll do this for a couple of weeks, and then I'll do a couple of weeks on the Macintosh and see. Again, it's all Apple stuff. Oh, and I got notifications of lockdown mode on my iWatch or my Apple Watch. I did not. All I did was push them away. I felt it was best I just concentrate on the iPhone, simply because that's what the majority of people have. They have iPhones, and that's really that's the question we're trying to answer from last week. I think the answer, though, is turn on lockdown mode.
Okay, so how do you do that?
So I posted articles last week. Oh, here's Chester. Hold on. Chester, what's your question? Or is it the same question?
No, my question is, where did you find lockdown mode?
Yeah, same question. So if you go into your iPhone settings, probably the easiest thing to do is to search lockdown. Lockdown, and it will appear lockdown mode. Really, when you open it up, it's just a toggle. Right now, mine's displaying turn off lockdown mode. You'll have to turn on lockdown mode. Most of this page is just explaining to you what kind of things may be affected by it.
What is the negative to lockdown mode?
Well, here's a real easy negative. Here's a real easy negative. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, you have the option to opt out the 2G and 3G networks. Now, we consider the 2G and 3G networks to be compromised. They can't be encrypted. And I mean, they actually are, but they're such bad. They're not considered to be safe from a security standpoint. And so one of the things lockdown mode does is it turns off your ability to connect to edge 2G and 3G networks. So if you're in a rural area, some area that has never gotten 4G, then you would turn off your cell service messages by being in lockdown mode. And you'd have to choose to opt out of that. You'd have to swipe that so that 2G and 3G were available. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I'm looking at the list of lockdown mode. When iPhone is lockdown, I get down to photos.
Yep.
Location will be excluded by default when sharing photos, and shared albums will be removed from photos. We use a shared album all the time. I don't want that.
That's interesting because I have a shared album, and maybe that would be interesting. I'll play with that. I didn't play with that at all. Shared albums. That's so specific.
Yeah, and that 2G, 3G thing, I'm thinking I'm not going to do it.
Well, if 2G, 3G bothers you, you can just maintain it. You can keep it on. But I really do. I suggest, and I'll look into shared albums. What they might do is they might turn it off from your phone. Like your phone is not participating in a shared album any longer. But your iCloud account still is. Because this is device security we're talking about, not services security. For me to imagine, but I honestly haven't played with it. I've got at least one shared album, and when we're done here, in fact, let me make a note. I will check and see if that album, because I'm the one that shared it, check and see if that is still available who I shared it with. I believe it would have to be through my iCloud account. What this is telling us is that I can no longer contribute that shared album. I also don't know how to spell album, apparently. There we go. Sharing not allowed. Check this. So I'm just imagining, I'm just my hot take on what they've written there. I would suspect that if I go to iCloud.com and sign in, I would still see the shared album, and it would still be shared with the people I shared it with. But when I just now went into photos, I didn't see that shared album. And so I suspect that what I've done is I've turned off my phone's ability to get at that shared album. Which would make sense because a shared album, they could put in a photo, somebody could put in a photo that has a payload to be compromised. So it makes sense that something like that would be on the list. Along with lockdown, you do have the ability to choose applications not to include in lockdown. If you do configure web browsing, which is cute because I almost didn't look in there, but I've already looked in it once before. It's the language that threw me off. Web browsing does not mean web browsers. It means using the internet. So if you go into configure web browsing, you'll see a list of apps, all your apps, and you can choose to include or uninclude or disclude. Wait, is that right? Yeah. You can choose to include or not these apps in the lockdown mode. Then at the top of this list is exclude Safari websites. Now, Safari is intimately using lockdown mode. And so you can tell Safari which websites not to include in lockdown mode. The same way you're telling your phone which apps not to include in lockdown mode. Honestly, I haven't found anything I haven't found anything that I would pull out of lockdown mode yet. I do think, though, that my phone in general, moving between applications, I believe, or no, I should say, starting up new applications. I believe, well, and moving between them. I believe I'm moving slower. And I believe it's because processes are not left running in the background. And so they have to start up again. I believe that's the reason that when I switch over to an app that I put in the background, it may have me traverse back to the beginning of that navigation and have to start again, or even just reload that whole page of that app, is because they're stopping those processes in the background. At the same time, I believe that if you're stopping those processes in the background, there's a very good chance that you're getting better battery life because your phone isn't doing those jobs as you're off to something else. I wouldn't be surprised also because of the finicky nature of how web pages load up that lockdown mode is blocking a certain amount of pop-up ads because they would be deemed insecure to allow that kind of access to your web browser. I have included the document, a link to the document of what is lockdown mode on iPhone and how to enable it, as well as the YouTube video that goes into an explainer of lockdown mode. These are the same things I linked last week. I've left them in our document, but I've put them under topics and discussions. If you guys are looking for more than what I've given you here, you can follow these links and get more information. We are going to talk about this router ban. But right here at the top of our list, topics and troubleshooting, this isn't actually a news article. This is an opinion piece from the Technology Policy Institute. And it's really on point. I've got some articles that I've linked to down below, but if you're not paying attention, Brendan Carr, who is probably one of the dumbest people to be in charge of the FCC, has decided that routers built outside the United States are a security threat, which that conceptually isn't that difficult to believe. However, economically, all our routers are made outside the United States. And the reason that this has been done is for security. The reasons that they give this solution doesn't satisfy that problem. And there's a lot of nuances to it, but in the end, we are not more secure by what has happened. They don't have a lot of details on what this is going to include. But if you've been hearing about how routers are illegal in the United States if they're from outside the United States, they are not talking about the router you're currently using. In fact, there's no such thing as an illegal router that is sitting in your house, plugged in, helping you with internet. You're not illegal because you have a TP-Link sitting in your house doing your internet stuff. There is also an amount of routers that are in our marketplace right now that have an exemption of this rule, which should send up red flags to begin with, because Why would you allow product to continue to be sold in the United States if what you're trying to do is put together regulation to protect people from those products? It's nonsensical, but they've given an exemption, probably because we're business based. They've made the investment. Businesses have made the investment, so they have to be able to sell these things. And so they are exempt. There's another exemption that has been made, which is an odd one to me. They have said that you can continue to get software updates from your router companies until next year at this time. Now, that comes with, I mean, there's so much dark history with that. Anybody that's been paying attention to the way routers work, especially consumer routers, they almost never get software updates. I mean, it's one of the biggest complaints we have right now is that you buy a router from Linksys and it doesn't maintain the software. You get a router from D-Link, and that's just, you stick it in your house and you use it for 5 to 10 years, and there isn't one software update. Now, I believe this has started to change because of California's law of maintaining and updating, but there's plenty of routers out there that don't have to succumb to that law because that law is based on a value purchase. The California law, and this is all hot takes from Scott, okay? I haven't read this. This is all the knowledge I have about what's going on, so take it with a grain of salt. But that law in California, the right to repair, the maintaining the responsibility of the company to maintain their product for 7 years is based on technology that costs over $100. And there's plenty of routers in the marketplace that cost less than $100. And so there's a lot of routers out there that their company doesn't have to worry about putting out a software update. I'm sorry, I heard something there. Yeah, Joe.
We unfortunately have to sign off.
Oh, no.
It says you have 8 minutes left in this meeting, but I'm afraid we have to move on. So it's great seeing you guys. We'll check in next Tuesday. Have a fun week.
All right. From Alamos, we'll look forward to seeing you. Adios. So yeah, it's unfortunate that they would set a restraint of 1 year on companies that are maintaining their software, such as TP-Link, such as the more modern Linksys versions of like or most of these mesh routers. They have all been designed in terms of this California law, and they do maintain their software. Before, you would find a security hole in a router would be found, and the company wouldn't patch it. You just have to go buy a new router. The California law and mesh technology specifically, because of that price point, these companies have now, when a hole has been found, they've typically fixed it and pushed it out as an update. Now, if you have a modern router, and we're talking about a router apparently you can still buy, you can expect software updates at least until 2027, March of 2027. Not in perpetuity, not for the 7 years that the California, but they basically said you can stop doing updates in 2027. It's badly written. It's not making us more secure. And again, we don't have an industry of routers being built in the United States. There is no option. We have to buy routers, foreign routers, at this moment. There's no other solution. If you need a router now, you're going to run out to the store and get it. And according to these regulations, you will not expect to get a software update after 2027. The exception to this now is that the routers that have the exception and can be sold have to be compliant to this regulation. But going forward, all routers are banned unless they get FCC approval. They have to go through a certification process. Everything that's already been through FCC certification is good to go. So this regulation is for everything that's new entering the market. Every new product is banned or not allowed in the United States until the FCC says that it's okay. So this is really convoluted because that's kind of the way this stuff is supposed to work in the first place. But the FCC has always had a self-certification system. So a manufacturer company will fill out paperwork basically and give it to the FCC. And that's probably questionable, especially in a country that's starting wars around the world. There's a real incentive to spy on us. So maybe being self-certifying isn't considered a secure way to do it. I'd probably argue that that is another issue, not a router issue. But that's where we are with all this. Now, the routers that are truly considered illegal are the routers that have already been compromised. And I have put a link down here. The 18 popular routers targeted by mass malware. These are the ones by the FBI has identified as having malware, as having been used to collect people's information. And so I encourage you to open that list and just verify. I looked at it. You'd have to be running a fairly old router for you to be on this list, but I would verify that your router is not on this list. And I don't think there's much more to do about this except wait and see what happens next year. I have one more hot take on this, and I hope this happens. Since we don't have a router industry in the United States, every router that exists in the United States touches some foreign hands in some way. So there's no way to legitimately have a US-based router. But to use router software on your own computer. And it was popular for a while there with people like myself to build your own routers. And we've got such great resources now for building our own routers. Again, I haven't read anything about this. This is just my hot take. But when I heard that they were banning routers, my first thought was, well, why don't I just put some router software on a Raspberry Pi? I suspect that at least within the next year, in the do-it-yourself community, we're going to find a popular rise in people building their own routers. And I think this could be a good thing. The reason you buy a router instead of building a router is because it's cheap. It's not because it's more secure. And speaking of routing, I think we need to move over to the other meeting because in less than a minute, we're going to lose this meeting. I am opening it up now. And the other one is going to be disappearing shortly. All right, you're all on the ball. It's me and Chester in the other group. Fred and Jim, I hope you guys have that link. I don't even think I can get it in the chat fast enough for you to click on it. Okay, the other meet is closed. Yeah, Chester.
I just had one thing I wanted to chat with you about a little bit.
Certainly. This is a good time to do it because nobody else is here.
Okay. My grandson from Denver was here this weekend, and he got the uh, Photoshop program working.
Oh, excellent.
What
Excellent.
he did was he did it in about 5 minutes. He deleted everything in the computer having to do with Adobe.
Oh, really?
And then we connected the DVD player, and he installed the program via the DVD.
Off of your disc copy of it.
Yes, and it worked.
All right. That's
So
awesome. I'm so glad you got that sorted out.
I thought you might be interested. Other than that, I don't really have anything or any reason to hang on. So everybody's gone.
Yeah, if Jim and Fred don't make it into this meeting, Chester, we might just be calling it quits together.
Okay, sounds fine. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, Chester. You have a good week. I'll see you on Tuesday. Or talk to you on Tuesday. Well, I got the router talk in. I did not get the iOS talk in. I didn't get the Netflix talk in. This is almost a document for next week. I'm going to give those two another couple of minutes before I call it. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes because our group is actually supposed to be an hour, and we always go over. And that's why we've just become accustomed to having two different meets to go into, because this is all nonprofit, unofficially nonprofit. And so I'll just wait here until, oh, look at that. We have 90 seconds more to go until we've had an hour-long meeting. And a lot of these topics will probably still be fresh for next week. We did not get to any kinds of recommendations except for Gas Buddy, which is a great one to keep in mind when you're looking for gas prices. And it's an app now, which of course it's an app. I don't know why I never thought about downloading it. Look at that. Download the app. So I think I'm going to stick that on my phone and play with that. We're going to look into shared iCloud albums for Cheryl to make sure that doesn't break anything. I'm pretty confident that I'm going to find that's the issue, is that your phone just cannot get access to it any longer. But it'll still be sitting out there shared. But we'll see what happens. Okay, well, I think I'm going to call it. We're at an hour and 30, and these guys aren't coming into the second meeting. So I am suspecting that we are done, which is fine. We will meet next Tuesday at 10 to talk tech. At Tequila's, I will be back for an in-person meeting. So please feel free to join us if you're in San Carlos, Sonora, Mexico. We would love to see you. My name is Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions. And if you're looking for remote solutions to your IT issues, I hope you'll keep me in mind, Scott at internationalcs.net. Until next week, tech on.